was the blood applied. Glory to his name.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so good to me.
All right. All right. Hey, buddy. Hi. All right. Hey, buddy. Love you. Love you. Ah! Okay. All right. Hey, bye, buddy. Love you. Have fun wherever you go. There we are. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. How's everyone doing? Good. Good. Keep an eye on the news. I was outside playing with Deacon, and there was a Southwest Airlines plane flying extremely low right over the plane. Did you see it? Over the church? I was like, what on earth is happening there? I was waiting for it to crash somewhere. It didn't sound like, I can't say that I know what a jetliner should sound like, but it also sounded like it was limping in. Lord willing, everything's okay. But anyway, that was fun. Anybody else have anything fun to report? No? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could read the letters on the side of it. I was like, whoa, you're not quite to Tampa yet. All right, well, anyway, hi, welcome. Great to have you. Wednesday night. Looks like there's a lot of you here. We had a couple of you out, but welcome back. And we're getting waist deep into the pool of whatever pool we're entering into here with the Know Your Enemy study, and we are tonight at part 6 of the study. Dun, 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 6. And we're going to be talking about the occult influence in the world. That is the influence of the occult. And you're thinking, what influence of the occult, Pastor? Surely the occult's not alive and well in the world today. You're incorrect. You will remember last week when we were talking about the mystery religion system that we talked about the idea that spiritual authority secures temporal authority. And that was basically the idea that throughout history, various governmental powers, and when we say governmental, we mean even monarchs and things like that in various kingdoms, were leaders who are given positions of power in the earth, have often claimed to have spiritual authority as well, where they have either identified themselves as gods, like we saw in the Greco-Roman world, and even before that in the ancient Near East, and most of those ancient cultures where the kings would say that they are actually descendants of gods themselves or are gods incarnate here on earth, or we move kind of into more the modern era, and you have sometimes people saying that they're acting on behalf of a god or God, Jehovah, Yahweh God, various types of things like that. So when they want to secure and make sure that people are really going to listen to them, they use religion as a force through which to enact their will in the world. So they're invoking spiritual authority to secure their temporal authority. And the devil has, of course, gotten into this. And when you hear most of the time, pretty much every time, you hear someone critiquing what the Christian church has done throughout the history of the world, and inquisitions and crusades and witch hunts and all those other things. And we could talk about the specifics of all of those and whether or not any of those things were justified. However, when people are using religion, and particularly Christianity, to do things in the world that do not fit in line with the teachings of Scripture, then we say that this is not a representation of the Christian faith, for one. And for two, that is the devil who has gotten into that religious system, and he's using religious systems to enact his will in the earth. And we've been talking about the two different modes of attack that the enemy uses, and those are deception and oppression. And it works in that when the enemy is without power, finds himself in a place of weakness or vulnerability, that is when he uses deception to get one over on us as his enemy. And when he is in a position of power, he uses oppression. So when he is without power, he's deceiving. And when he is with power, he is oppressing. And as the mystery religion that we talked about last week began to take hold throughout the ancient world, the devil was able to use oppression against God's people instead of deception. So when it was that mystery religious system that we looked at, the foundations of which came from Nimrod and Semiramis all the way back thousands of years ago at the beginning of civilization, and how that worked its way through Greco-Roman culture. And then you had essentially emperors who had military power, and the devil was whispering in their ear. Then the devil's line of attack against the church was to oppress them, because he had military power through the forces of Caesars and the Greco-Roman military. So the church was squashed physically through oppression. So if you just think about the first century in Rome and what we know about the church and what they were going through, that it was all the things on the oppressive side. They were being accused of various things, like setting Rome on fire. They were being enslaved, taken prisoner. They were being, of course, persecuted, and they were being devoured. They were being just slaughtered. And that was what was going on. That was how the devil was trying to get one over on the church. But it turns out that oppression had the unintended result of the flourishing of the church in first century Rome, and that as the church was being persecuted, the church was actually growing. So as the devil tried to crush the church, as he tried to squash them and kill them all, the church just continued to multiply. Tertullian noticed this and said, he's famous for saying this, that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. And so it is. Jesus, you remember, he says in John chapter 12 that unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it remains but a seed. But if it dies, it springs forth and bears many other seeds. That the idea is that as we die, the testimony of a dying martyr actually inspires faith in others. And that's the thing about Christianity, is the more you try to squash it, the more it grows. And because of that, it seems that the devil changed his tactic there in the latter days after the church, because if you can't kill them, if that's just going to continue to make them multiply, he switched back to a mode of deception. So he wasn't taking the church over by oppressing it, so he started trying to deceive the church. And that was lying about who God is, casting doubt in the minds of people about the authenticity of the biblical testimony, confusing by mixing Christianity with other weird mystery religions, and then enticing people away through various other sorts of religions. So this idea of deception becomes very prominent basically from, sometime around the 2nd century forward. We see really a big emphasis on the enemy using deception instead of oppression in at least the Western world. In many parts of the East, it's still very much oppression. It is still very much persecution. But in the Western world, where we live, it turned into deception from there and has worked its way out ever since. And deception, if we want to understand what deception is, it is best understood through magic. And when I say magic, whatever you're thinking of right now is exactly what I'm talking about. Because magic, whether we're talking about the magician that you hire to come out to your kid's birthday party, or we're talking about some witch somewhere who's casting a spell over a bubbling cauldron, or whether we're talking about Mickey Mouse and Fantasia and the magic kingdom, magic, any form of magic is the same at its core. And the idea of magic is intended to deceive and to misguide and to point you in one direction while something is going on somewhere else. This is what magic is all about. This is maybe not best seen, but it's really well pictured in a movie called The Prestige. Has anybody seen The Prestige? Yeah, it's a good one. Christopher Nolan, in my opinion, the greatest director currently living, and he's really making a bid for of all time. All of the movies that he has made are just phenomenal, every single one of them. The Prestige, if you have not seen it, do yourself a favor and go home and watch The Prestige. And I will tell you that as you're watching it, it's a movie about magic. So the premise of the movie is that it's two competing magicians. They start off as friends, and it turns into this rivalry when a loved one dies tragically, and now they hate each other, and they are competing magicians doing the same sort of tour around the Great Britain area and trying to be the best magician and doing all of these different kinds of tricks. And it is basically that they're both experts in their craft. And kind of the tale of the story is they end up being essentially like the same person. They have the same sort of motive and drive. It's manifesting itself in different ways in their lives. I don't want to say too much because it's like the little twists at the end and all of that are so amazing. You have to watch it. Pay as close attention as you can when you're watching it, and you will still at the end just be like, oh my goodness, what is that? And that is precisely the point. This is Christopher Nolan. His movies are always like, the subtext always is put so heavily into the main story that it's like he's communicating the point of the movie to you over and over through a variety of different ways. It's just brilliant storytelling. They're brilliantly shot, brilliantly acted. This one really, really good though. Mark. Yeah, so the two leads are Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. Yes, those are the competing magicians. And just a couple, so the idea of the thing is that it's about magic. So it's about how do you trick people, right? And the whole thing is these guys are trying to trick everybody. They're trying to trick each other. And then throughout the movie, the director is tricking you the whole time. And he basically pulls a big magic trick on you at the end where you're like, this is so crazy. But there's some really cool dialogue that happens in it, and I just want to point this out. So this is Hugh Jackman's character, and he says this about magic. He says, the audience knows the truth. The world is simple. It's miserable, solid all the way through, sort of a pessimist, huh? But if you could fool them, even for a second, then you can make them wonder, and then you get to see something really special. And this is at the heart of magic, right? It's fooling people. It's getting people to believe a lie. You're saying, I'm going to make this flower or card or person disappear right in front of your eyes. I'm going to make them disappear, and then you disappear them. And of course, everyone's sitting there thinking, well, surely they didn't disappear. But where are they? What is going on here? And then everyone's scratching their heads and they're leaning in, and they've been deceived, and they know they've been deceived, but the fact of the matter is they like it. This is why people pay to go see magicians deceive me. Trick me into thinking something that's not there. And I'm going to pay really close attention, and you're not going to be able to trick me, I bet. But then they get tricked, they get duped, and it turns out that they actually like it. Christian Bale's character says, when someone's asking about how did you do that, he says, never show anyone. They'll beg you and flatter you for the secret, but as they'll soon as you give it up, don't know what happened there, you'll be nothing to them. And basically what he's saying is the life of a magician is based on creating a deception and securing that deception in front of people to where they never actually know what's going on. And as soon as they figure out the truth, they basically realize, it's just smoke and mirrors, and you're not really that wonderful. But if you can trick them, if you can keep them tricked to the point where they can't ever quite figure out exactly what's going on, then you have them right in the palm of your hand, and they'll keep on coming back. And so it is with the devil, and so it is with this mystery religion system, that the idea is to continue to put a mystery, a secret out in front of people that they can never actually wrangle, that they can never get to the end of. Keep a deception going in front of people that keeps them enticed, that keeps them wondering, that keeps them coming back for more. And magic is all about misdirection. Magic is all about, look over here, and they bring out whatever, a beautiful woman, scantily clad or something usually, and you can't help but look at the woman, and meanwhile, the magic that's happening is happening over here. Or, whatever, a big animal or some fire or some whatever they're doing, and this is happening over here, and you're looking over there, and meanwhile, over here, they're doing the magic. And that's what magic is all about. It's about misdirecting. And so it is with our enemy, that he is all about misdirection. He is all about presenting something over here that looks like this. Meanwhile, something in the background is going on that is completely different, and he keeps us distracted, and he keeps us confused and enticed through his magic. We will talk more about magic, the reality of magic. And when you talk to some people, there's a friend of mine who has lived in that world. The world of dark magic and the practices of the occult and those sorts of things. And it is basically, the idea is about invoking your will into the world, that you are, through your sheer will, through your speech, through your conduct, whatever it is, through conjuring spirits, you are trying to evoke your will into the world. And the devil, of course, uses the worldly things to entice us. The misdirection is in the worldly things. While that's going on, we're pursuing those. He's, of course, taking ownership of our souls, if you will. All of these things we will talk about. But we need to talk about the occult here tonight. That is the main thrust of the talk. And just a gloss definition, when we talk about the occult, we're talking about supernatural, mystical, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomenon. So notice the word magical is in there. Deception that is taking place in the supernatural, mysticism, mystery, all of these different things rolled in there. That secondary definition, it is something beyond the range of ordinary knowledge, right? Mysterious or hidden knowledge or experience. Mysterious, communicated only to the initiated. So when you're talking about the occult, it is something, it is knowledge, it is a mystery, it is information that is only understood and communicated to people who are on the inside. This is spelled out. If anyone has been a fan of the Harry Potter books or movies, I'll reserve my opinion about those for right now. But if you're familiar with the storyline there are all of the wizards, the magic people, right? And if you're not a wizard, you are a muggle. The wizards, they're on the inside. They have the inside scoop. They have the inside knowledge. And then there's basically the stupid people, the muggles, the dumb people. They don't know what's really going on. They're not connected to the secret power like us wizards, us magicians are. We have the inside information, and they do not. And they have their own secret language that they talk about, their own secret power that they can tap into. Meanwhile, all of these other people over there, they're just stupid and kind of disposable. And this is sort of the idea that really runs throughout the course of human history with the occult. There's a lot of very, very real ideas that come from the occult and from witchcraft that are inserted into the Harry Potter book about witches and magicians, if you didn't know that. But etymologically, the word occult means to cover over, to conceal, or to hide, right? And this is what magicians are doing. They're concealing things, they're hiding things, covering over certain things, and then presenting something that's not actually the truth. I spoke to my friend who I was telling you about that has some expertise in this area, not only in personal experience, but also in study. And he said about the occult that the acquiring of hidden knowledge, this is what it is. It's the acquiring of hidden knowledge that inspires a subtle shift in the consciousness that steers us away from what God has revealed to us at our level of comprehension. So the idea of what the occult is putting forward, this was his definition. His name is Matt. He's actually here at the church. Most of you know Matt Harris. He's the guy who looks like he lives under a bridge somewhere with the dreadlocks. Really, really smart guy. And he spent some time in that world. And I was kind of struggling for a definition. I said, give me a definition of the occult. And this was what he said. And I said, that's perfect. So it is hidden knowledge that is used to distract us from the things that God would have us to be paying attention to. So it's magic, right? Used to have us looking over here, misdirection. Look over here at this thing instead of looking over there where you should be looking. And this is the idea of magic. This is the idea of the occult. And the occult communicates these various things through symbolism. When we talk about symbolism, they use symbolism in order that they can hide things in plain sight. And this is something that the occult talks about very often, is things being hidden in plain sight. And it is an enemy who is full of pride, who is arrogant, who is boastful and proud. One of the things that a boastful and proud person loves to do is to brag openly about the things that they are doing. And so it is that the devil, and so it is that the people who work for the devil, they brag about the things that they are doing in the open. They put it out there in front of everyone, right in front of our faces, and most of the time, we don't even recognize that it's happening. And this stuff is right in front of our eyes on a daily basis, and if you are not initiated, if you're not on the inside and you don't understand the inside language that's being used, then you don't know that this stuff is actually being carried out right in front of your face. It's being put into the entertainment that your children are watching. It's being put into every single movie that is coming through in Hollywood, every single TV show, commercials, music, video games, all of the media that we are consuming. Media, the word comes from the Latin word, which is, it means an intercessor. It is the one who is in between. So it's from the same word that we get medium. And when you're talking about like sizes of clothes, you have a small and a large, and the one that is in between a small and a large is a medium. It goes between the big one and the small one. Or when you're talking about someone who communicates with spirits and then talks to the living, talks to the dead and the living. They are a medium. They go between, and that is what mediums do. That is what the media does. The media goes between parties. So we, as the public, are one party. Then there's the media, and then you have to ask the question, whose message are they delivering to us? Whose message is the media giving to the world? Where's the message coming from? And of course, it doesn't take very much to realize where the message is coming from. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We'll talk all about the dark underbelly of Hollywood and television and all of those other things. But symbolism is one of the ways that they get this stuff out there, and where we just consume stuff and we don't even know it. And here's a little symbol test for you. You guys understand how this works, right? Look, these are all symbols, and they communicate things. The one on the top left is copyright, right? And that means what? Basically, like somebody owns this, right? This belongs to someone, right? Yeah, you can't use this without permission. In the middle, we have we can tell who the musicians are and aren't. All of our non-musicians said a music symbol. Yes, it is. More specifically, the treble clef, right? You understand what that is, and particularly those who can read music, you get what that is and what that signifies. Next to it, we have, what is that one over there? It is an apple, yes, quite obviously. It represents the computer company, right? And more than just computers now at this point. Probably more than half of us in this room have a device right in our pockets, right? That is made by Apple. Just always so interesting to me. It's the one with the bite taken out of it, right? Which is like, just like, oh man, isn't that funny? But yeah, we see that, and of course you're thinking, when you see that, you're thinking about computers, you're thinking about phones, you're thinking about maybe iTunes or music or something like that, or TV, or all of these things start to come up. We have underneath that the biohazard symbol, right? You see that, and it's like, oh, toxic, danger. It's communicating a message, right? The recycling symbol right next to that. I keep on coming across all of these things that say recycling is just a big sham. That we sort all of our trash, and then they just basically put it all in the same spot. We're going to believe that we're doing something to help the planet, though. But there's the recycling symbol, and then anybody know what that other one is there? It is not Islam. That is, yes, it is the Republic from Star Wars, right? It's a symbol for freedom and for the good guys and for fighting oppression and all those sorts of things. They're symbols. They communicate things. They mean things. It's just a little shape, but when you see the shape, all of these ideas start coming to your head, right? You start thinking about various things from seeing just a simple little picture or a simple shape. Some of them carry great power and great authority with them, like the copyright symbol. That's not just a symbol, but when you see that, it's like, do not tamper with this thing in a way that you ought not to tamper with it, or else you are committing a crime and you can be prosecuted. So they actually, some of them carry authority. Some of them invoke all kinds of maybe emotions for you or feelings or things like that. These are symbols. We use symbols all the time. Anybody familiar with this symbol? Yes. The ichthus, sometimes called the Jesus fish. Ichthus, does anybody know what that means? It means fish. It is the Greek word for fish, but it also is used as a acrostic. That is the Greek spelling there. It is ichthus. And those are the first letters of a phrase. It would be Jesus Christ, the Yoda and the chi there, Jesus Christ, and then you have the theta, so that would be for theo, which is God, and then the upsilon, which would be for ouios, which is son, so it is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and then the sigma there for soterios, which is the Savior. It is Jesus Christ, God's Son, the Savior. And it also is the Greek word for fish. And this was a symbol, if you guys know the history of this, that Christians used to use, a symbol, a hidden secret symbol that carried a message. And the message was, if you see this symbol, you know that this person is a Christian. As legend has it, when Christians would pass each other in the Greco-Roman world, in the time when they would be killed if it was found out they were a Christian, a person would draw one half of this symbol, sort of a kind of semicircle there, and then a knowing Christian on the other side could complete that symbol with another semicircle, and they would together make that fish, signifying that both of those people were Christians. It was a secret coded language for Christians. And we have all kinds of coded language in the Christian church, don't we? We have all kinds of words and symbols that we see, we recognize they mean things to us and to the world out there. They have no idea. There was this really interesting YouTube video I watched one time, and they took people who never had been to church or grown up in the church, and they started asking them what all of these various words meant from the Christian faith, and they're all just sitting there just kind of like stammering things that if you're in the church, you hear them all the time. I wasn't prepared to share this, so I'm struggling right now trying to think of any of them, and I can't. But yeah, definitely big theological words, but these were more just some of the kind of like fellowship or something like that. Yeah, maybe something like that. But nonetheless, we have our own language. This is interesting. This actually was found at an excavation site somewhere over in, I don't remember exactly where it is, but somewhere in the ancient Roman world. And you have there the word ichthus, and next to it you have this like 8-spoked wheel there, and basically the idea is that each one of those letters could be overlaid with that 8-spoked wheel. If you do that real quick, you can kind of see how that works, that you can see, how an I could be in there and an X, and you can see where the theta would be there, and how all those letters would fit in there. So they came up with a symbol, this 8-spoked wheel, which also signified that we are Christians, and this has endured kind of throughout time there. And you have it there again, the 8-spoked wheel, and it says ichthus at the top, fish, or Jesus Christ, God's Son, the Savior. So symbolism, right? The idea is that you can take these things and you can use them right in front of people, and only the initiated, only the people who know what's going on behind the scenes actually can understand this. And when it comes to magic, there's a show called Fool Us that Penn and Teller did. If anybody's familiar with the magicians, Penn and Teller, they're world-class magicians. They've played all over the world and have had long stints in Vegas. They do all kinds of magic tricks. Their shtick is that they will take magic tricks that are pretty standard magic tricks that I guess Penn and Teller feel like should be retired at this point, and they will do the trick in front of people, and then as part of their comedy routine, they actually show you how they're doing it. They make it look like it's kind of a mistake, like a whoopsie, this is how we cut a lady in half, but then while they're doing that and revealing that trick, they're pulling off something even more incredible that you're like, how on earth did you do that? So they're like revealing secrets while showing even greater ones at the same time. It's really, really cool. But they have a show called Fool Us. And basically they sit there as these grand wizards at this table, and these magicians come up and they do some crazy trick, and everybody in the audience is completely dumbfounded. And if you're watching it on TV, you're like, how on earth did they do that? And then Penn and Teller talk, and then they'll ask a couple questions. When you bent over, were you picking up a string or something? And like you're listening, you're like, what are they even talking about? And then the magician will either say, yes, and they're like, yeah, we knew. And it means something to them, and we have no idea what they're talking about. Or they're like, no, and they're like, and then they'll talk in private. And then they'll be like, come here, because they don't want to give it away. It's very weird. The idea is, what I'm saying is there's a whole culture that is going on that we are completely unaware of. And so it is throughout the world on many different levels. That things are hidden in plain sight all the time. And the meaning behind symbols is generally known only to the initiated. And we are going to start to see what some of this looks like throughout history here. The idea of being hidden in plain sight shows up throughout various persons in history. You guys remember our friend Karl Marx, who we looked at last week, and that is Friedrich Nietzsche right next to him, two very prominent atheists in the world. And you will notice that they are both sitting there, standing there, and they have one hand conspicuously hidden in their jacket. This is something that has come to be known as the hidden hand. That they're standing there posing for a picture and they stick one hand in their jacket to hide it. And you're like, well, that's a strange thing to do. Why would you do that? Why would you hide one hand in your jacket? And then we see people like Napoleon Bonaparte and Joseph Stalin, who are also pictured doing the same thing, where they are hiding one of their hands. And this is essentially what this is. No one can say for certain, but an idea that has been put out there from people who have studied the occult is that this is essentially a symbol where they're publicly saying that we are doing things that you know nothing about. There are things that are taking place out here in the world where you can see them, and then there are things that are going on that you will never know anything about. It's called the hidden hand, and they're basically putting it right in front of your face, saying, you have no idea what we're up to. We're up to something, but you don't know what it is. And it's a mystery, right? It kind of keeps people like asking questions and wondering. And you see this throughout various political figures all throughout history. You also, unfortunately, see this in entertainment. Here you go. Sorry, David. There they are, the Beatles. Yes, and you have Paul and John up there, and who knows whether or not they know what they're doing. Maybe it's just something cool that they saw in a picture somewhere, and they thought, you know who's cool? Karl Marx. Let's do this just like Karl Marx. I have only seen pictures of horrible men doing this, but nonetheless, they thought that, that would be fun for a picture. There are, of course, lots of questions about what it was that these four young men were doing, that they were able to, let's say, cast a spell on the whole world to become, in the words of John Lennon himself, bigger than Jesus, right? We're more famous than Jesus. I mean, hey, sorry, if it's a popularity contest, we won. Just throwing it out there for you. But this idea that there is magic taking place all around us, that there are hidden agendas that are being worked out right in front of us. And one of the most prominent symbols for this is this one right here. You guys have seen this before? This is known as the all-seeing eye. And this is where we're going to start now stringing together all of these pieces from part 1 to part 6. And this is all going to start coming together. This is the all-seeing eye. This is something where, again, you have, if you remember, if you're thinking about that pyramid-type structure, the ziggurat, and the idea of the ziggurat of the mountain is that at the top of the mountain is where the deity rests, right? The deity lives on top of the mountain. This triangle is intended to point to the peak, the pinnacle of some mountain where a deity rests. The eye symbolizes a deity who sits at the top of the mountain. The eye symbolizes knowledge, that they are all-seeing, that from that vantage point they can look down at all of the muggles, at all of the common folk, and they can see everything, sort of like a surveillance state, knowledge being power, right? So you have this knowledge of everything that is going on that is associated with power, and this all-seeing eye has been a symbol for the occult and for satanic practices from way, way back. You have here at the Great Pyramid in Giza, if you did not know, from far away, it's hard to tell that there is no top to that thing. But if you get close, someone you can see has superimposed here a little digital drawing on top of the pyramid. And there is supposed to be a capstone on top of that. The pyramid would have had a capstone that would have sat on top of it. It's been lost forever. Nobody knows exactly what was on it. Could it have been an eye? Who knows? We don't really know. Maybe, maybe not. But there was a capstone there that's been lost. Probably whenever they were destroyed, somebody went up there and raided it for the precious metals. It's likely made of pure gold or something like that. And it was taken as a spoil of war. But this is, when you're looking at this, if you don't know how big the pyramids are, I brought a picture for you for reference. This is yours truly. I was trying to find a picture of somebody in front of the pyramids, and I was like, wait, I have one of me. The stones are huge. They're huge. And the thing is, of course, I don't remember how tall, 100 plus feet tall. The stones are massive. So when you go back to this thing, that capstone, you're talking about that thing being probably 10 to 15 feet tall, like probably filling up like this room here, nearly reaching the center of the ceiling here. A giant stone which sat on top of there. But what is interesting is while they never found the capstone of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid at Giza, they found many other capstones of smaller pyramids, and they looked like this. And you have these weird symbols on there that certainly look like they could be elliptically shaped like eyeballs that are sitting there. And these, of course, all tied in with various occult practices and things like that. This one over here has a winged creature symbolizing something that resides in the heavens and having great power and knowledge. But these types of things, we have this as verifiable and demonstrable proof that this symbol goes back to various occult practices. And then, of course, in Egypt, they had a very prominent eye. If you guys are familiar with the Eye of Horus, you guys have seen this before? There is this imagery all the time of a single eye, an eyeball, and that eyeball represents hidden knowledge. This is one of the symbols of the occult, that when you see this eyeball, or any singular eyeball, and particularly an eyeball in the middle of a triangle, this is talking about hidden occult knowledge. This is something that we have discussed in here before. It refers to the mind's eye, sometimes known as the third eye. And when you get into New Age mystical practices, you see imagery like this all over the place. So if you are to just look up any kind of New Agey, type of graphics or anything like that, you're going to see pictures like this all over the place, where you have, the various chakras over here, and you have the one right there in the center of the head, which represents the mind's eye. You have this guy going on over here, and this one, and this picture down here in the center bottom, there's an eye that is just like raining down knowledge, apparently, on this person who is in this meditative state. And then, of course, the great Alex Gray picture right there, the human anatomy with the third eye right there, which is representative of hidden knowledge. And this, of course, what the devil promised Adam and Eve when he said, as God said, you'll surely die. And he said, you won't die, but God knows that when you eat from the fruit, your eyes will be opened. You will experience the hidden knowledge, and this is what is going on with the occult. It is one of their favorite pieces of imagery is the third eye, or the all-seeing eye, which brings us back to the great seal of the United States. And this is intended to be a double-sided seal. You see this on your dollar bill. You see the front side and the back side. You can think of it almost like a coin. And you have there the unfinished pyramid with the all-seeing eye. You can see it radiating rays of light from it, symbolizing a deity that rests atop the mountain there, seeing everything, knowing everything. I believe we talked about the first time that we showed this, the meaning of the Latin words there at the top. It says, announcing the conception of or the arrival of a new world order. Announcing the arrival of the new world order. Very interestingly. And then, of course, over on the other side here, you have the eagle. There is some lore that suggests that the eagle actually started off as a phoenix, and the phoenix has all kinds of esoteric symbolism about something that dies and then raises to life from the ashes, but we'll leave that one aside because there's no empirical evidence. But this is the eagle. It very interestingly, above it has the stars there, where there are 13 stars in the shape of a six-pointed star, which we will also get to at some point. But the words inscribed there on that banner are E pluribus unum. You guys know what that means? From the many, one. And you put that phrase next to this picture of what could very likely have been the Tower of Babel, or something very close to what was going on at the Tower of Babel. And at Babel, God took the people who were supposed to spread out and fill the whole earth, but said, we will not do that. We will stay here. We will stay and we will defy God. We will band together to defy God. God confused the languages of the people, spread them out, made many nations from them. And then now the statement that is being made by the United States of America is, from those many people, there will be one. And you can look at this either as something beautiful and encouraging about how we're going to bring unity to, in this country, where it's a country for all people come together under this one banner, or if you wanted to try to read some kind of nefarious message into it, then you could say this seems like people who are defying what God was trying to do at Babel, where he took one people and split them up into many people, and this is a bunch of people coming together again to shake their fist in the face of God. It's up to interpretation. It's a symbol. It is cryptic on purpose, so it can mean many different things, but the case against the United States of America will continue to build. And I'm not saying against it, but I'm just saying we're going to continue to see a bunch of nefarious things as we go. And in case you had any question about the all-seeing eye, there it is once again, right there on the hat of Aleister Crowley, one of the most evil men who has ever existed, one who practiced magic, the dark arts. And he has there prominently on his hat a triangle with a six-pointed star of radiating light, very much like we saw, if you look back over here, the six-pointed star over here, and he has the same thing on his hat with the eye in the middle of the triangle, the all-seeing eye, and he's basically sitting there saying, I know something that you don't know. I know a lot of some things that you don't know. Would you like to know the things that I know that you don't know? Wouldn't it be so helpful to know the things that I know that you don't know? Would you like to know them? And enticing people in with hidden knowledge. And this is the evil that is perpetrated throughout the world. And we see this in various different ways, but this is a poster that you might see at any of your free Masonic lodges. And you will notice this is from the Scottish Rite, and we will talk all about that. There are all kinds of symbols on here. And when we're talking about symbols and the fact that they carry messages behind them, and you're looking at this picture, there are all kinds of symbols. You have the weird G floating there in the sky with the eyeball in it that's radiating light from it. You have a little five-pointed star down here at the bottom. You have the compass and the square that are there a couple times intersecting. You've got a temple. Looks like Solomon's temple in the background there, and all of these pictures and symbols being mixed together all into one. And if you're just looking at that, you're thinking like, that's a really weird, hokey hodgepodge of a bunch of different characters and things. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, well, and you move on to the next thing. But if you knew all of the things that were being communicated in that picture, you might stop and look at it and be like, wow, that's an incredibly evil picture. And particularly there at the top, you will see that you have what is quite clearly a pyramid type structure. And at the top there, you have that little capstone, which is on the banner, which is the square and the compass. And this is just to scratch the surface of what we will be talking about for the next couple of weeks. But beginning next week, we are going to be talking about secret societies. And perhaps you are familiar with some of these secret societies. Here's one. Anybody know which one this is? The Skull and Bones. Does anybody recognize the young man in the center directly to the left of the grandfather clock there? That is George W. Bush, standing there with his buddies in the Skull and Bones. They seem like a bunch of good young men who probably kiss their mothers goodnight and obey all the rules. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Good old George W. John Kerry was in there too, and many others. So we'll talk a little bit about the Skull and Bones next week. And then these guys, this is a Masonic ceremony that is taking place, and there's so much symbolism going on here too that we dare not even try to cover it right now. But I mean, just the look of this, it just kind of creeps me out a little bit. But we'll talk about the Masons and all of the various U.S. presidents that were and are Masons, and all of the powerful and influential people in the world who are Masons, and what it is particularly that the Masons believe. And I think I mentioned, but if you did not know, it says expressly in their Masonic text, Morals and Dogma, that God, the God that they worship, when they say, if a Mason were to say, one nation under God. And you said, what do you mean when you say God? Because I know what I mean when I say God. What do you mean? And if you read Morals and Dogma, you would read where it says, Lucifer is God, period. So we'll get to it next week. I'll have chapter and verse for you next week. So that's all that we have for tonight. Are there any questions or comments or smart remarks? Yes, Miss Pat.
I had heard before that the eye was referred to as the eye of God, and did not necessarily be shown in a triangle. It could be shown many different ways, but it represented the eye of God, not in the occult.
Yes. And then you would just have to ask yourself, what do you, for those watching at home, sorry, she said that she had heard that the eye just is the eye of God. It means the eye of God. And yeah, the question is, who is your God? Who is God? And this is where it's tricky, because in a Christian context, in the church, if I say God in here, we all say Yahweh, or we say Jesus, God. If you're talking to someone who worships Lucifer, and they say God, they are not thinking about Yahweh. So when you say the eye of God, or if you were to say the eye of God to a Muslim, they're going to say, oh, yes, the eye of Allah. Yes, the eye of God. So this is why, and we've talked about this on Sunday mornings before, when I say that you can talk to people about God all day long, and people will talk about God all day long. People love to talk about their thoughts about God. When you start to talk to people about Jesus Christ, the conversation changes drastically. People will talk about God all day. What do you think about God? What are your thoughts about God? What do you believe about God? And they'll say all kinds of weird stuff. What do you believe about Jesus? That's a quite different conversation. So I would say yes. And again, it's a symbol. May there be Christians, well-meaning Christians, who have said, oh, the eye of God, and maybe have taken that symbol and used it before? Perhaps, sure, maybe that's happened. Maybe they had good intention. But when you look at the history of that symbol, it was not something that was started by the church. It was not something that was started by Christians. It was something that was developed and used by the occult and false religions from as far back as we can possibly find it. And God actually usually tells us not to depict him in symbols, right? We have pictures of crosses, but that's not a picture of God. We have pictures of fishes. Those aren't pictures of God. We're not supposed to actually make images of God. So if someone's saying, this is an image of Yahweh, he's looking down like, kind of wish you wouldn't do that, actually, really. So anyway, there's that. Yes, Mark.
Well, there's the kind of thing that everybody's got symbols. The Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and not disrespectfully, we've got symbols. So reading stuff into, sometimes I think it can go a little too far.
Yeah, so Mark said that everybody has symbols, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts in Mosaic Church. Yes, we all have symbols. We opened up the conversation about symbols with that we use symbols in general are a neutral thing. A symbol is a neutral, it's like a gun. Are guns good or bad? Well, it depends on whose hand they're in and what they're using it for. Is a knife good or bad? Well, who's using it and what are they using it for? So I'm not saying that symbols inherently are evil. I'm saying that symbols can be used for evil. And yes, you do. I would say that intention is kind of always really what is the defining factor of a symbol's goodness, right? They're open to interpretation, correct. But that is one of the ideas of magic, right? One of the ideas of, you can put this thing out there, and we'll get to this. This is actually, Albert Pike talks about this, one of the most famous Freemasons, and he says this even in the Masonic cult, that as people are coming through it at various degrees of initiation, starting at level 1, moving up to level 33, they understand something about a symbol that is in front of them, which is false. They know it to be one thing, that is false, and the truth of it gets revealed to them the further up the ladder they go there. Like most of those various mystery religion systems. Our guest in the back, welcome. Hey, you showed up on a real interesting night. Your name is? Darlington. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
I just want to share that since I be Christian, I was on the gift of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So when that symbolic stuff starts, is when the Lord Jesus give you a word of bless. So then the devil, like you say, the devil use the symbolize because since we are light in the middle of the dark, so now the Lord asks you just to be positive, positive, positive. So then you are always positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since it's a war between the good and bad, between you and the devil, flesh and in the spirit, so now you're walking thinking everything positive, right? So he see you, so he's looking the way to go through your mind to you start to think negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been dealing with the symbolic thing for like 2 years, and like that one, like at the minute as I have those gifts, when I came here at the minute right here, I see that and when the devil arrow me, those things that the apostles say, they are arrow, right? Those are the King David said I'm not going to scare no arrow fly in the daylight. It's those things. Like when I see this, the devil want to come out from that triangle. And when he's on the eye like this, he only is watching me as a Christian because now, like you say, it is a third eye that the Lord give you for you take care of yourself.
Yes.
But if you, let's say, if you walk right now outside and then there's a girl naked, let's say like that, right? So now you see him and you don't want the devil put that girl, so you see naked the girl and you don't want to see her, right? But the devil is looking for you. So now he can take the symbolic on the wrong way. Like you say, me, when I see a knife, I see that man, that spirit, did he come out? Let's say when I deal with this very hard, very hard, with that triangle, with that thing, it is that I went to my wife's house, right? So since I am dealing in the spiritual world, my wife, I'm fighting that whole thing. I went on the hurricane to her house. She was on Indiana, so when I go to her house, they have a pool bar. So they have this triangle area.
Uh-huh.
So when I go there, I pray outside. I say, Lord, what happens if I go there and then some evil thing come, right? Because I didn't know those stuff were where on the roof. So the Lord said, just go there by prayer, right? Just go there, sit in there, and don't think about, don't drink what it is on the wall, because right there you're gonna be safe. So the hurricane was crazy outside, right? So when I'm coming in, I see this triangle, right?
Uh-huh.
So if these people come out from the back house, from the back door, and then they open and they say, you know that he's here, right? So I said, so the triangle, right? So you know that he is here, right? So they was talking about that spirit. I don't know if it's a principle or
Yeah.
a demon or something like that.
Yeah.
So me as a Christian, I say, oh yes, but the one who sent me early in the morning is bigger than the one.
Amen. Amen. The thing that I think that I like the most that you brought from that was that it is the idea of the third eye and the secret knowledge. It is what you were saying was the Spirit also wants to give you insight. The Spirit also wants to give you revelation about these things. And that is exactly the idea, is that the devil is trying to impersonate the thing that God does. And God gives us wisdom. God gives us hidden knowledge. He reveals things to us about himself, and very much unlike magic. With magic, when you see essentially what's behind the curtain, you become disinterested all of a sudden. Oh, well, that's lame now. I don't really care about that. I can't believe I was tricked by something like that. Whereas in our relationship with God, when we see what is behind the curtain, we are more enticed by who he is and what he is about. But yes, they're all over the place, and we need discernment. We need God's wisdom to help us to understand those things. Yes, Mike.
I heard somewhere that a lot of our food products and drink products have like demonic symbols on the logo.
Yeah. Yes.
Energy drinks.
Yeah, the food and drink and those sorts of things with demonic symbols. Yes, they're on packaging for food, and they're on drinks, and they're on all kinds of. We will scratch the surface of all of it. It's when you start to know the symbols, what they are and what they mean, you start seeing it everywhere. And that's kind of the idea of doing this course, is to know what the enemy is doing and to be able to discern those things. Now, whether or not that means you should boycott Monster Energy drinks, that's up to you altogether. But we'll talk about it. I'll try to save my opinions as much as I can and just do my best to give you facts. Anyone else? Okay. Just.
With that. So when I was coming here, like I say, I was very spiritual, working on my Lord Jesus, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was in downtown. So I was walking like this and thinking my spiritual stuff, right? So somebody just go like this and give me this like this because they know that I was coming here,
Uh-huh.
So he's telling me that I was eating the girls over there, and he's feeding me to come out again. So
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So we can talk all about that. But yes, discernment as we're out there and paying attention to things. I would say that there's some truth to what Mark had said, where we don't want to be looking for the devil under every rock and behind every image, but we do want to at least be aware of some of the things that are being used. Every time you see a triangle, you do not need to be concerned that there's a curse attached to it. However, sometimes there might be, and have the ability to know the difference. And we'll get into all various types of symbols and 5-pointed stars and 6-pointed stars and all of that fun stuff as we go. But let's pray, and we will skedaddle. God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for your love and your care for us, God. Thank you for your protection over us, God. Thank you that we can claim the promise, God, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper, God, and that we are in your hands. And the only things that come across our path, God, are those things that you have sovereignly ordained for us, God, and we are grateful for that. We are grateful to know that in this world we may have trouble, but you have overcome the world, God. Our hope is in you. Our hope is not in this world or anything that is taking place in this world, God. Our hope is in you. And as we continue through this study, God, may you give us wisdom. May you give us your hidden knowledge, God, your insight into this world and the things that are going on, God. Give us strength for what lies ahead of us, God, and discernment and faith. We love you. Go with us from this place, we ask in your name. And all God's children said, Amen. Praise God.